Hey guys, Tom and Eric here today. We're talking about aquascaping nano aquariums, and to do that we've got our new gen Spec freshwater aquarium kits right here in front of us. Available in both 2.6 and 5 US gallons. They come in both black and white, and they still, like the first gen, feature our effective 3-stage filtration. Now let's look at what's new. In fact, honeycomb wrap so that you don't see the filter contents. Really cool new LED light fixture. It's a nice sleek aluminum fixture with a very responsive touch switch. Fully waterproofed LEDs, 20% brighter, and a color temperature of 7,000 Kelvin, which is really good for plant growth. Eric, you got anything else you want to suggest?
No, let's set these up, give you guys some great tips.
Sounds good.
Okay, so a quick note, before you start actually working on your tank, it's a good idea to have inspiration of what it's actually going to look like. Now you can do this by looking at images online, by watching videos such as this one. You can also even sketch something out just so you know what you want to actually do with your tank. Now in my layout here, I've used about 1 inch sloping to 1.5 inches of natural colored sand. You can also use a fine grain gravel. In a nano tank such as this one, it will maintain a proper sense of scale. You want to avoid using any gravels that are larger than that.
That's correct, Eric. And in fact, here in my setup, I've gone with a fine gravel, white gravel, as you can see. I've sloped it from about 1 inch to 2 inches in the back. Now, fine gravel or sand is actually ideal for plants to root in. Coarser gravels obviously make that a more difficult process. Another thing that you want to make sure of is that you're selecting a neutral toned type substrate, nothing with a lot of contrasting colors in it. If you do that, it's going to be too busy. It's going to detract from the overall setup.
People have a tendency to think very symmetrically, and in an aquarium, in an aquascape, that doesn't really look good, doesn't work, doesn't look natural. So in order to avoid this, we apply the rule of thirds. And what you want to do is divide your tank equally into 3 vertical and horizontal sections. You want to apply your primary focal point to one of these intersections. In my layout, you can see it's right about here, this really interesting looking piece of wood.
Now, my layout over here, you can see that I have a vertical piece of wood situated on this third of the tank. And if you look at the intersection on this actual piece of structure, you'll see that the wood starts to branch out and there's some interesting crevices in there. That's actually the focal point of this decor right here, this hardscape. Now, looking at Eric's setup, you'll notice he's got some plastic tie wraps. Those are actually there to combine 2 pieces of wood to create the vision that he really had in mind. So he went ahead and created it with that. And in fact, you're not going to notice them in the future because plants are just going to grow right over the wood.
Thanks, Tom. So while he was explaining that, I've actually been adding in a few small pebbles. I've done so in a natural way just to make things look good. Now these pebbles are going to add complexity, some detail to the tank. They're also going to serve to soften the edges of the driftwood, make everything look a little bit more natural.
Okay guys, now we're going to complete planting our nano tanks. I'm going to continue with mine, starting with the Anubias you see here, the Anubias Nana. I've put a green push pin over here. I'm going to position my last piece to show you what I'm up to. Now at the bottom you can see I have this piece coming out. Now the reason I've done that is because I've got an open area here for the Anubias to grow out over, and also I want to create a step up from the substrate, then following into the Vallisneria at the end. So I'm going to insert this last piece over here, and I'm going to angle that. It's going to push that into the wood. I've of course pre-soaked the wood to make that a little bit easier for me to do. So this Anubias now is coming out this way, which is what I wanted to do. Now, next up, it's going to be actually the Vallisneria. Now, when you plant a rooted plant like this into a substrate, what you're looking to do is plant just the root work in there, not the actual crown of the plant, which is this over here. So I'm going to grasp the plant just at the base of the root work like this. I'm going to support it a little bit, and then I'm going to go right into the substrate over here, burying just the roots and just covering that up, not burying the crown of the plant. If you bury the crown, you're asking for trouble. You could potentially kill the plant. So we're going to just put that over there for now. Now it's important to remember with plants like Vallisneria that they grow, just like most plants obviously. It's going to have to be trimmed back. So a good set of stainless steel scissors from Fluval is going to do the trick for trimming them back. Eric, you want to take us further?
In my case, since I'm using moss, I don't need to worry too much about planting techniques. In order to position the moss where I want it to be, just place it right there, and I'm going to continue using these plastic tie wraps. I can leave these in the tank. They're totally inert, they're not going to bother anyone. And I can just close it off like this, and the moss will be placed in the correct position. Now you'll also notice that in nano tanks such as these ones, Tom and I have kept the number of plant species to a minimum, only using 1 or 2. If you use too many, it's going to look cluttered, it's going to look confusing, not going to look very good.
Now that we've set up and planted our aquariums, it's time to add the water. Eric, you want to give me a hand and just pour the water in? You're going to notice that we've got a pad here which is going to distribute the water as it goes in. The water, of course, has been preconditioned. It's at the right temperature. And this is going to prevent the incoming water from disturbing the setup. You can see the pad distributes everything really nicely. It's very, very calm in there. No disruption of your setup at all. It's a great tip. Now, when it comes to adding fish to an aquarium like this, you got to remember these are small tanks, nano tanks. So the quantity of fish has to be low. The variety also should be very limited. Now, my particular tank, it's going to be basically neon tetras, probably 4 to 6 of them, and a pair of dwarf cories. Eric, what are you planning to add to your aquarium?
Well, for my Spec 5, I'd thought about some harlequin rasboras, maybe do some red cherry shrimp, or even a betta.
That's great. So there you go, guys, setting up a nano aquarium. You got any questions or comments, please hit us up at fluvalaquatics.com.